optimizing hybrid cloud environments, which is integrating data centers and cloud interconnect for scalability and performance. For this, I would like to invite Dr. Keyur Jathal, Director of Ishan Technologies. Mr. Keyur has spent more than a decade in the industry and is working with Fortune 100 companies. His recent role involves leading the business function as an executive director at Ishan Infotech Limited, a company promoted by technocrats with an inevitable track record of growth and technical competency in systems integration. His profile includes driving business growth through the inclusion of new product and solution segment, team augmentation, and geographic expansion. With this note, can we have a huge round of applause for him?
As short as possible. Now, yes, the topic for today is related to data centers, of course, and it is with respect to the cloud interconnect offering that we have. And it is in line with the trend of multi-cloud adoption, which we have been hearing since morning today. So that is the topic for today. But now, while I was, preparing the presentation and I was looking at the registrations that the event has received, it was a very healthy mix. It was a healthy mix of people who already knew about us, what is Ishan Technologies, and it also had an equal proportion of people who frankly didn't know what is it that we are doing. Correct? So my talk today is split into largely two sections. One is I'll take this opportunity to tell you what is it that we do, what is the technology portfolio that we carry, and the second half will be focused on cloud interconnect. So to start with, the sliders are working. We call ourselves Ishan Technology. Now, Ishan Technology is basically a brand name, an umbrella brand for two legal entities. One of the legal entities is called Ishan NetSol, wherein we are a Class A ISP, where we have got a pan-India presence. We've got more than 100 offices right now, and the business demands that. We have to be near to our customer, and that is how we are a team of around 1,700 odd people today, catering to customers pan-India. So that is the bandwidth arm. The second legal entity is called Ishan Infotech Limited, because after the bandwidths come into your premises, we work with you for setting up data networks. We work with you for setting up your data center equipments, and then we also work with you for your cloud journey and data security, more of which I'll talk about later on. So that is Ishan Technologies. In a snapshot, we are a 23-year-old organization. While I was introduced as a person with a decade worth of experience, but looking at me, you would always know that it's more than 2 decades. It's 23 years for me in the industry. So yes, 1,700 employees, 450 crores worth of turnover is what we do among both the companies. And we are a CMMI level 3 certified organization for services, because we are in Bangalore, a city of software companies, but we have the distinction of having a CMMI level 3 appraisal for infrastructure services, which is a distinction by all means, which we are very proud about. Now, from a financial indicator perspective, we have grown by more than 30% CAGR. With respect to our EBITDA performance, we are an old-fashioned company, right? So we don't buy customers. We don't burn cash to increase our foothold. So that has ensured us that we remain an EBITDA positive company right from the year 1 to the 23rd year of operations. Correct? So that's in a nutshell what we do. Now, this is a busy slide because we have been busy since the last 23 years. But let me, bring you to the current decade, the third decade of our existence. In the third decade of our existence, we are actually, trying to realign our organization in line with whatever is going on currently. And that is where we had a relook at our services portfolio, and we realigned the 4 pillars with which we reach out to the market. Right? So that is the expansion mode we call this decade as the decade for retooling ourselves, this decade as the decade of expanding into newer geographies and investing into sort of events like this, participating, speaking to people like you. So this is broadly the journey. I'll skip this slide. I'll skip this as well because I already talked about our pan-India presence. So for people who are familiar with the ISP market, with the telecom market, we hold a Class A license, we hold an NLD license. We take up SD-WAN, we take up these kind of projects internally on our own. So that's the ISP portfolio. Now, in recent times, if we don't talk about generative AI, if we don't talk about metaverse, if we don't talk about IoT, we are almost an outcast in the IT industry. And these are the emerging themes that all of us are dealing with. Now we've got two perspectives on this emerging theme. One is, if you are a practitioner of IT, then you wish to utilize these tools so that your work can become better, it can become more efficient. And if you're a business owner, then you would look at building efficiencies using these tools. Now, why is this slide there at all? I mean, why did I mention this? Because all of us know about it. Now, this is where we come in. We say that in order to utilize these 4 themes or 5 themes or 6 themes, depending upon the time of the day that we are talking, you will need a robust IT infrastructure. Now, what are the components of a robust IT infrastructure? So, some time back I told you that we realigned our services to focus on building digital platforms. So, the first pillar that we talk about is the ISP connectivity, right? We are into B2B lease lines, we are into broadband as well, and we have a pan-India presence, which I already spoke about. And we have more than 20 to 30,000 customers in the corporate space, and we've got more than 50,000 customers in the retail space. So that gives us the maturity to design networks, to build uptimes. We've been hearing 4 nines, 5 nines this morning today, and we have a team which delivers on that. So that is our first pillar with which we reach your organizations. Now that brings me to the second pillar, the systems integration pillar, wherein we, from the edge, which is the ISP, to within your premises, we talk about data networks, building you Wi-Fi, secure Wi-Fi networks, and then we go up to the data center. We have in-house skill sets for deploying hyper-converged infrastructure. The largest Cisco hyper-converged infrastructure is being deployed by us in defense segment. So while I talk, we've got 45 people sitting in Bangalore, working with companies like ITI, VEL, etc., for defense-related projects. So that is the second pillar. So ISP, the bandwidth coming in, then the data networks and server storage, that they belong to the systems integration domain. And the third pillar relevant to today's talk is the data center and cloud journey, which is again our third pillar. And afterwards, last but not the least, once you've invested into a good ISP network, once you've invested into a good data network, once you've done a brilliant job about investing into server storage, HCI platforms, what have you, it is all about data. And in our last pillar, we help you protect that data, we help you recover that data, we help you secure your systems. So that makes up for a good, agile and secure digital platform. A digital platform on which the trends which I covered in the previous slide will ride upon. Right? So this is where we come in. This is what we do. And we do the what and we do the how of these 4 pillars. By what do we mean by what and how? So what is it that you as a customer should do? So we can work with your IT teams, we can work with your business teams as well, and we can give you options. We are vendor neutral. So we don't have a compulsion of talking about one particular technology only. So we can be vendor neutral, we can provide you consulting, if I can use that word, and then we can also do the deployment. So that's where the what and how come into the picture. Now, coming to the second part of my talk, wherein the first speaker of the day today, he did quote IBM's research report, and he said that 91% of the organizations are evaluating multi-cloud, right? The report that which we are quoting talks about 98%. So in any given scenario, more than 90% of us are evaluating multi-cloud. So that's where all of us are headed towards our digital deployments. Now, let me talk about challenges to the multi-cloud. While going to multi-cloud, what are the challenges that we as an organization face? Now, at the initial level, we talk about, we calculate hardware resources, we calculate bandwidth that will be required to reach out to the cloud. We also play around with options. What happens if the service provider has a downtime, so on and so forth. And one of the earlier speakers also spoke about increasing redundancy, increasing reliability, cost optimization. There was a figure that was quoted which said 30% cost optimization by adopting multi-cloud as an approach. But how do you reach multi-cloud instances? I won't read out from the slide because the content is in front of you, but I'll just talk the summary. Now, for you, if you are hosted on, say, for example, Amazon and Google, right? How will you reach those instances? Through public internet, obviously. Now, we know that public internet, and in today's times when most of us are not sitting in the office, we are accessing those instances from everywhere and anywhere. We can reach that through broadband. We'll be reaching the instance through a secure lease line, but we will be using public internet. So is it secure? The answer is no, to an extent. Plus, there are latency issues. So two challenges: security, latency. And then what is the third challenge? The third challenge is that we've got a lot of customers who are pioneers in adopting cloud motion, and they've matured their instances in cloud. So today they are on Amazon, for example. And tomorrow they come across a good offer from Google or a good technological fitment in Google. Now they want to shift. They want to shift that instance from Amazon to Google. Now this activity is also formidable because it requires bandwidth. It requires consideration of the storage being replicated from one cloud instance to the other. So this is the third problem. How do you exit? Since morning we've been hearing about cloud adoption, things that we should consider. But exiting a cloud is a real problem that quite a few of us have today. We should at least be aware. If we are not exiting the cloud, at least we should be aware that are we being locked in. So that is the third complexity. And which is where I come in and say that, we as Ishan, since we have got an exposure to both systems integration as well as the ISV challenges, we are now authorized by the four hyperscalers, the four vendors into the cloud ecosystem, which is Amazon, Google, Oracle, and Microsoft as their direct connect partners. Now, direct connect is just a technology that I'm talking about. Now, what is direct connect is mentioned on this slide. It is basically a dedicated high-speed connection link between what? Between your premise and the cloud instance. This is important. It is a dedicated link between your premise and the cloud instance, right? And if you have this, of course, you will have to be our customers to experience this. That is where my sales pitch comes in. But if you have a direct connect from your premise to the cloud instance, then the three challenges that I spoke about, they get resolved to an extent, depending upon the kind of scenario that you have. Security, obviously, because you've got a direct link. We spoke about latency. Again, because you've got a direct link, the latency is not compromised, so your latency improves. And this third challenge, what I was talking to you about, is exit from one cloud and entering into the other cloud service provider for reasons of cost optimization or a better technical fit. What is it that we do? Now, I gave you an example of Amazon and Google, two cloud instances, correct? Now, between these two cloud instances, we can actually provide you a dedicated link between your instances. If some of you are interested, we can actually have a call later on in the next week as to how do we deploy that. So the moment we give you a link between two cloud instances, we can give you a fat pipe between these two. This will ensure that your time to shift will be shortened in terms of your application or and the data both. So we give you flexibility by giving you a cloud interconnect on these 4 service providers. And that in a nutshell addresses the 3 challenges that multi-cloud poses as and when you would approach a multi-cloud adoption, right? The 4th advantage is, fortunately we are blessed with good service providers, and whatever I'm talking is subjective and it is based on the city that you are working in or the kind of geography that you are working in. But being approved by these larger cloud service providers, we give you, the maximum possible uptime. Because if Amazon speaks to us, we have to give you a secondary link also. We now assume that you, Tata is giving you a link. Now, a most respectable company in the telco space and our partner as well. So Tata is giving you a link at your office, right? Now, what if Tata has a downtime? Then all of you would have invested into a backup link, correct? Now, which could be probably from Airtel, depending upon the feasibility. It could be with Jio or BSNL also. That is a backup link. Now, we as Ishan, we have our offering called HAILL, High Availability Internet Lease Line. So what we do is that with the link coming into you, with the primary link coming into you, we give you seamless failover between Tata and Airtel or Tata and the alternate link, correct? Now, it is because of this investment and because of technical maturity that we have, and I would admit that a lot of respectable telco players do have this maturity. We are able to shift you to the second link in a seamless manner. And we are one of the top 4 or the first 4 or 5 vendors to receive this authorization from the logos that are mentioned out here, correct? So in a nutshell, these are the key benefits that I already spoke about. So I'll skip this slide. Now, while I have spoken about who we are, our 23-year-old history and our realignment of service offerings in context of the data center motion which is happening, and then I did speak about multi-cloud adoption challenges and direct connect or the cloud interconnect. It is customers like you who actually validate our approach. Now, these are our customers across verticals. So I did speak about having 30,000 odd customers in B2B space. I spoke about having 50,000 customers in the retail broadband space. But if we segregate them among the verticals, now since morning I've been speaking with a lot of you, and it was good to see a cross section of the industry being represented today. So yes, we are into financial sector, we are into the enterprises, the conglomerates, that is, hospitality, government, obviously, as I spoke to you about ITI and defense, so on and so forth. Education, we've got 6 IIMs working with us, and believe me, they are the best when it comes to evaluating vendors. So we are proud to be of service to them, and larger logos from the education industry. It's a sample, obviously, are present on this slide, and last but not the least, the healthcare sector. So we've been accepted well by these verticals, and that is how this slide rather is more to establish our credibility, because this is our first participation in UBS. And while we are present in Bangalore since last 4 to 5 years, from a marketing push approach, this is our first effort. So that is how I wish to tell you that you are in safe hands if you're talking to us. We know the subject, and these customers can vouch for us. Now, while delivering services, obviously we need to have certifications in place. So this slide talks about that. I did speak about the CMMI appraisal as well. It is recent, so that is what is fresh in my mind, and we had appointed KPMG to work with us on this certification. Now, if you're in IT industry and if you're operating across these 4 pillars that I just mentioned, you need to have tie-ups, because most of our customers are having hybrid landscapes. None of them is on a single brand, and nor should they be. So that is where we have got alliances all across the technology stack that we operate in. So the way in which we visualize our go-to-market is that suppose you're carrying a device, it should be a secure device, which is where we tied up with Apple. So we are Apple's corporate partners. We are into B2B space. We are not into retail. Right? The way in which we deal in Apple is we give you operating lease. So you don't have to own the product. At the end of 3 years, we replace that product. But more of that later on. So that's where Apple is. Then on the network edge side that I spoke to you about, we are partners with Cisco, Aruba, and the likes. Similarly, there are the other brands which are mentioned on the slide, which would cover cloud vendors, which are covering server vendors, which are covering storage vendors also. So in a nutshell, we have pre-sales people who can design solutions. We have post-sales people who can deploy these solutions also. So we don't have to rely upon an external entity to the extent possible. And yes, so while I am supposed to speak well about the company, there are others also which are speaking well about the company, and we have been receiving awards at regular intervals. So this slide talks about the awards that we have received. We have received awards also from non-IT industry as a growing company, as a promising entrepreneur as well. So this slide talks about that. And with that, I end my talk. Thank you very much.